What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you've been enjoying the bye week. The Dallas Cowboys not playing this week. They are off. They are 5-1. Life is good for America's team. We will next see them next Sunday night when they take on the Minnesota Vikings. That game again on Sunday Night Football. So back-to-back Sundays where you'll get to enjoy the Red Zone channel, watch all of your fantasy players. Hopefully they're doing what you need them to do. Hopefully you're winning because the Cowboys are winning. Everything is great for the Cowboys, and we're entering kind of I don't want to say the most important part of the year, but we're entering a part of the year, a part of the season where things are very important, where teams start to separate themselves. We've talked obviously about when the Dallas Cowboys could literally separate themselves from their NFC East competition. The last video we dropped here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, make sure you do subscribe, was about exactly when in the season, at what point the Cowboys could win the NFC East. And obviously a lot of that depends on health and the way things bounce. If certain teams win games, if certain teams lose games, we went kind of off of where things currently stand in our general idea of who each team is in the NFC East. Now, obviously, things are going to change with the Dallas Cowboys. And a lot of people asked us and have been asking at bloggingtheboys.com, here on our YouTube channel, and our podcast network, on Twitter, social media, etc. The question has been, what should the Dallas Cowboys do when the trade deadline comes? We're very close to the NFL's trade deadline here in 2021 for the season, that is. Next time trades and moves like that will be allowed will be at the beginning of the league year in 2022. We sat down, we said, let's kind of figure this out. Who could the Cowboys trade for? What should they do? What should they acquire? And then it became a very difficult question to answer because the Dallas Cowboys roster is very deep. And it's not just that it's very deep in terms of who's on their 53-man roster right now. It's deep in that they have a lot of players who aren't even on their roster that make them very talented. The Cowboys, over the next coming weeks, months, are going to get a couple of players back that are going to make their roster even better. So if you want an answer to the question who the Dallas Cowboys should trade for, the answer, I hate to be chalk and be boring, but the answer is nobody, because there are some players coming back that are some serious playmakers that are going to go a long way towards helping the Cowboys in their cause this season, which we all obviously hope is winning the Super Bowl. Now, here are the players. This is a very simple video, simple discussion here today. We're going to talk about 6 different names here. All right. We're just not even going to get fancy with the graphics. Just one graphic, one thing while I move out of the way so you can see it properly here. We've got Lyle Collins, who is set to return when the Cowboys visit the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Demarcus Lawrence, whose status we don't totally know yet, but is going to return at one point or another. Michael Gallup, who we haven't seen since the Week 1 game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the only loss of the season for the Dallas Cowboys. Dorrance Armstrong's also going to work his way back, as is Neville Gallimore, who we haven't seen at all this regular season, and Kelvin Joseph, the team's second-round draft pick. Now, we did not include Trysten Hill on this list, and that's not out of disrespect for Trysten Hill, but he is somebody who is going to be coming back, another defensive tackle. And that's, every one of these names that you're looking at right now, these 6 names, Trysten Hill included if you want to go to up to 7, they represent 6 roster moves that the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to make. Now, technically, the Cowboys already waived fullback Nick Ralston, got him back on the practice squad, so Lyle Collins does have a spot on the roster. So the other 5 on this list, 6 if you count Trysten Hill, the Cowboys are going to have to make some decisions. So when we're talking about who should they trade for, who should they acquire, et cetera, blah, 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 they're already going to have to say goodbye to 5 more players at the very least over the coming months to make room for these players. And let's go in order here. Lyle Collins, all right, he's coming in, and I know there's been a discussion, should Terrence Steele continue to start at right tackle? This is something that Bob Sturm and I kind of danced around when we had a discussion on one of the episodes on the Blog on the Boys podcast network. We talked about how Mike McCarthy deserves more credit. That was kind of the point of our conversation. If you want to go back and listen to that, we are available on all major podcast platforms. But there is a group of people, and I'm not trying to point fingers or anything, because maybe you're among them, that feel that Terrence Steele should stay the team starter right tackle. Some people want to go even further and say that Connor Williams shouldn't even play at left guard, that Lyle Collins should come back, play left guard, and from left to right, you'll have Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, and Terrence Steele. And I get that, and it's an interesting conversation, and I am incredibly impressed by what Terrence Steele has done. And I think that Terrence Steele has made the conversation about the future of the right tackle position interesting at the very least. But that's a conversation that we can have in the offseason after the Cowboys have won the Super Bowl. They're getting measured for rings. They're hanging another banner, so on and so forth. But for now, there's no question that Lyle Collins is the better player, the better option, the better right tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. And we obviously care a lot about this particular offensive line and this particular quarterback. And so everything has to be at the maximum ability level. And that's not necessarily the case. If you're choosing to play Terrence Steele over Lyle Collins, and again, I'm a huge fan of Terrence Steele, I don't think you're doing yourself as much of a favor as you ultimately can. Terrence Steele, though, while he is not somebody who I believe should start for the Dallas Cowboys if Lyle Collins is available, which again is going to be the case starting on Sunday in Minnesota, Terrence Steele now has elevated the swing tackle position. You know, when we did videos discussing and analyzing the 53-man roster, we were very on the fence about the swing tackle position for the Dallas Cowboys. We did not feel that Ty Nsekhe could measure up, could be that guy, could be the answer for the Cowboys, but Terrence Steele has now lived up to something that I think a lot of people really thought was impossible. And so now the Cowboys have 6 offensive linemen, 7 if you include Connor McGovern, that they can really trust, and that's a good thing. So again, none of these are trades, but they are moves that are going to improve the Cowboys roster and certainly improve the floor of it. Demarcus Lawrence, I know there is a hive out there of people who believe he's not good, who believe he's not worth it, who believe he's overpaid, who want to see more sack numbers, etc. And there's a hive of people who are going to say, you know what, this defense is awesome. I don't want to mess with it. That take is out there. All right. Now, here's the thing. I love Randy Gregory. I love Trayvon Diggs. I love Micah Parsons. Demarcus Lawrence, when healthy, when on the field, is the best defensive player for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think we should talk about DeMarcus and Dorrance Armstrong in the same breath here, because the Cowboys have been, I think we all agree, pleasantly, surprised. Maybe you're not surprised, but what Randy Gregory has been able to do has been so important, so critical to the success that they're having on the defensive side of the ball. What Micah Parsons is able to do in week 2 against the Chargers playing at defensive end. The Cowboys are now going to get back their best defensive player, who happens to be their best defensive end, and they're going to get back an incredibly important rotational piece in Dorrance Armstrong, and that is going to go an incredibly long way at giving them room to breathe. Right now, they don't have a ton of depth in terms of their roster at the moment. They have, obviously, Randy Gregory. You can obviously talk about Chauncey Golston's played really well, but when DeMarcus Lawrence and Dorrance Armstrong are back, that's going to give the Cowboys Lawrence, Armstrong, Randy Gregory, Chauncey Golston, Bradley and I still in the mix. I know it doesn't happen all too often. Terrell Basham. I mean, the Cowboys have all of a sudden a lot of defensive ends that we believe in, and that is a very, very, very good thing for a defense that we are all hoping that is going to keep up this rate, keep up this same level of play, keep able to generate this many turnovers over the coming weeks. So getting these 2 players back is massive for Dan Quinn, is massive for the Cowboys as a whole. And again, those are 2 players that, I know you're probably sitting there like, man, this is so boring. I really want to trade for somebody. I want to get a new player. There are new players. We haven't seen these players really for the majority of this season. And so this is an important thing for the Dallas Cowboys to get these players back in the rotation on the defensive side of the ball. Michael Gallup, what can you say? I mean, Michael Gallup is... it's hard. I get that, the Cowboys offense has a ton of superstars, and so it's difficult to rank who's the best one, who's the best wide receiver, et cetera. And I know you're thinking there's no way Michael Gallup is the best wide receiver. The Cowboys have Dak Prescott, and as long as they have Dak Prescott, whoever is playing is going to thrive and is going to flourish. But getting Michael Gallup back is going to add another level to this offense. We know that Dak Prescott throws an incredible deep ball, and I love, just like you love, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson has been amazing so far this season for the Cowboys, especially in response to the Michael Gallup calf injury. But Michael Gallup is their best deep threat. I think we will see more home runs. I think we'll see more kind of chunk plays. And I know that Cedric Wilson has had a couple of those, but we'll see more of those 40, 50-yard bombs. And I'm not talking yards up to the catch. I'm talking from point of throw to point of catch. That's what Michael Gallup is great at. And he's also great after the catch. I mean, that's another element, another gear to this offense that we're going to see reestablished when Michael Gallup gets back. And I know that the take is out there too. I know that ESPN did a piece where it was the most tradable asset on every single team and named Michael Gallup as that piece for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't want anything to do with trading Michael Gallup. You know why? Because Michael Gallup got injured. Amari Cooper's been dealing with injury. I mean, it's very, I won't say likely, but it's very, normal to have injuries happen to your team and see your roster impacted to the point that you have to survive. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys have been doing. And so I get it if you have your eye on a particular player, you want to improve something or other on the Cowboys roster, but Michael Gallup gives you 4 incredible wide receivers that you can rely on because of Cedric Wilson. Him coming back is really going to raise the floor. Again, all these players are raising the floor, raise the floor of what this offense is able to do. I think we're seeing CeeDee Lamb really do what we all thought was going to happen, cementing himself, establishing himself as the alpha of the group. Amari Cooper continues to be amazing. So getting Michael Gallup back, adding him to that fold is going to make things sing all the more on the offensive side of the ball. Neville Gallimore, man, I know I've said this before on some of our shows, some of our live shows, certainly in post-game shows here on our channel. In no universe has anybody getting hurt ever been a good thing in the history of anything. But sometimes the way sports work, there's just funny results, right? Funny ifs that happen. And I think, one of the biggest ifs that you could play with the Dallas Cowboys right now is, what if Kellen Moore doesn't break his ankle at training camp in 2016? I know you're thinking, RJ, you're talking about Neville Gallimore. What's this have to do with Kellen Moore? I'm sure you're aware, but if Kellen Moore, or rather when Kellen Moore broke his ankle back in 2016, that elevated then rookie Dak Prescott to the primary backup position for the Dallas Cowboys. He'd already beaten out Jamil Showers. Tony Romo gets hurt in the preseason, and all of a sudden, options 1 and 2 are gone for the Cowboys. They have to start Dak Prescott. Fast forward 5 years. Here we are now. And that's what I mean. We've seen 1,000 of these, 1,000,000 of these in the world of sports. One player getting injured opens the door for another. In fact, Dak Prescott, throughout his career, actually, as a high school, collegiate, and now a professional player, has gotten his opportunities because the starter in front of him got hurt. And so when you look at Neville Gallimore, if not for the injury that he sustained in the preseason, I don't know that we would have gotten a fair chance, a fair shake at seeing Osa Odighizuwa. And so it's not a good thing that Neville Gallimore's injury happened, but, it gave us an opportunity to see one of the best defensive players on the team. And I know it's difficult, right? You're like, man, you can't say he's the best. Randy Greger's the best. Trayvon Diggs the best. You said Demarcus Lawrence is the best, RJ, right? Osa Odighizuwa has played to that level. And, I think the Cowboys, I know I thought this entering last season, and it blew up in all of our faces, but last year I thought the Cowboys had a sneaky line of depth at defensive tackle, because entering the season, I want to be very clear here, this blew up in our face. We had Gerald McCoy, Dontari Poe, Tristan Hill Tristan Hill had a nice start to the season last year. It wasn't, world record breaking, but it was the best we've seen of Tristan Hill so far. Neville Gallimore obviously played incredible as a rookie. I mean, but now the Cowboys have a lot of options. They have a stable of options along the interior of the defensive line there. You've obviously got the aforementioned Osa Odighizuwa, Brent Urban, Carlos Watkins. I mean, Tristan Hill is technically, going to be coming back as well. You're now adding Neville Gallimore back. I mean, there's an argument to be made that when it comes to the defensive linemen that are going to return to the Cowboys that we have on this list here, Demarcus Lawrence is very strong. It's actually the only argument to be made that he's the best defensive end on the team. There's also an argument to be made that Neville Gallimore is the best defensive tackle on the team. So you're talking about getting both of those players back. I keep saying the phrase raises the floor. This is going to massively, significantly raise the floor for the Dallas Cowboys defense as a whole, going to allow them to get much more pressure up front when they're attacking the quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. Last player that we're going to talk about here today, Kelvin Joseph. And when you look at this Cowboys draft class, we've already mentioned a lot of names. We've mentioned Micah Parsons, Osa Odighizuwa. Obviously, the Cowboys have, it feels like every single player from their draft class has made an impact. Chauncey Golston has been awesome. The only one that hasn't really popped so far has been Nashawn Wright. And I know we've kind of, gone way back and forth with that subject a number of different times since the moment the Cowboys drafted him. But right now, I think if you ask your average Cowboys fan, hey, who's the weakest starter on this defense? I think most people, average Cowboys fans, people in your social circle, your families, your friends, etc., they'd probably say Anthony Brown. Now, I've been hard on Anthony Brown. I know a lot of you have been hard on Anthony Brown. We had a great article over the weekend at bloggingtheboys.com about how Anthony's actually played rather well if you take a closer look at things. And I think he deserves an incredible amount of props, all the kudos in the world. But there's no question that we at least want to have other options. And I'm not saying that, somebody needs to come in and replace Anthony Brown, but we need to have depth, right? And we haven't seen any real – if you look at the new additions for the Cowboys defensively this year, the players they added in free agency, the players they added obviously during the draft, we've seen that impact along the defensive line by way of Micah Parsons when he was up front, of Osa Odighizuwa, of Chauncey Golston. We've seen that, right? There's Terrell Basham, etc. We've seen the additions at linebacker, Micah Parsons, obviously Keanu Neal, etc. We've seen the additions at safety, right? DeMonte Kazee, J. Ron Kearse, right? there have been strong additions for the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to those positions, or rather, we've seen those strong additions. We haven't really seen anything at corner. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs has played amazing, and I don't want to take away from that at all. But nothing that the Cowboys have added from the end of last season until where we're at now in this moment, in this conversation, we haven't seen those additions play themselves out. Kelvin Joseph is that. And look, I want to be very clear about something. It is very often said that the most difficult position to transition from college to the professionals in is the cornerback spot. So when we get to see Kelvin Joseph back, and who knows exactly when that's going to be, but it is going to happen. I want to be careful and temper our expectations. I don't know that he can come in and have the same success that Micah Parsons has had, or Osigizua has had, or even Chauncey Golston has had. It's just a difficult position to ultimately transition to, as mentioned. But I mean, it's still very possible that Kelvin Joseph comes in and makes some sort of contribution. And so that's why I think if you ask the question, if you have the conversation with your friends or your families, your buddies, your pals, whatever, you say, who should we trade for? You don't have to trade for anybody, because all these players are coming back. All of these guys, and Tristan Hill. I mean, the Cowboys are going to get back a ton of help in the coming weeks. And that is an incredibly exciting thing, because this roster is already very deep, and it's going to get even deeper. Now, I don't want to be, Eeyore or talk about rain clouds or get negative, but it's also possible the Cowboys will have some players that get hurt. That's kind of the balance of an NFL season, right? Is, because if we're sitting here, we're talking about who are the players the Cowboys are going to move on from, or cut, or waive, or whatever, to make room for these guys, the way they waived Nick Ralston, got him back on the practice squad to make room for Lyle Collins. You think about guys like Malik Turner, they're the guys that are kind of on the bubble right now. You're 52nd, 53rd player, so to speak, but you will, in all likelihood, hopefully not, you will, though, have players who are going to need to go on injured reserve. And it's just the constant roster dance, the constant shuffling that's happening throughout the NFL in an NFL season. And that's just the way that things tend to go. So the roster looks strong for the Dallas Cowboys at the bye. And the bye came at a great time, especially when it comes to Dak Prescott. But for a lot of these guys to get riding for the Cowboys, I know that they're, we're a little upset the bye is at this point in the season, but they will have that little mini bye after Thursday Night Football after Thanksgiving, which is exciting as well. Things are really exciting when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. So we are excited here at Blogging the Boys. Please subscribe to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Check out bloggingtheboys.com. Subscribe to the Blogging the Boys podcast network. We pride ourselves on making the best Dallas Cowboys content that we can, because we know, in fact, we believe that you deserve it. Cowboys are on a bye, which means they're going to be 5-1. We'll see them next Sunday night when they take on the Minnesota Vikings. It seems like 6-1 is going to be a reality sooner rather than later. Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next time.